Today, we will learn about pharmacovigilance and its potential impact on patient safety and public health. The advent of technology has given us the opportunity to mobilize efforts to actively respond and find ways to deliver healthcare services and improve the quality of care. Recently, the Food and Drug Administration spearheaded this year's National Consciousness Week against counterfeit medicines. This year, they highlighted 3 focus areas for its advocacy against counterfeit medicines, namely vigilance, consumer empowerment, and interagency collaboration. This week, we are celebrating the National Pharmacy Week with this year's theme, The Filipino Pharmacist for the Filipino People, ensuring better healthcare, medicines, and services. We are very glad to have everyone joining us in the meeting room. You have been briefed by Andre earlier with the poll questions and the pre-test evaluation. So we will now be proceeding. Our time now is 1:20, and we are hosting the webinar live from the University of the Philippines, Manila, Information Management Services. We will now be using the GoToWebinar platform to learn and help us understand the role of pharmacovigilance systems in promoting patient safety. This is a new way of bringing us all together for a seminar. On behalf of the Medical Informatics Unit and Bioinformatics Unit, Seminars in Health Informatics, we're delighted with your presence for our webinar topic. Now, I would like to introduce you to our presenter for this afternoon. Our speaker today is a professor of pharmacology, anesthesiology, and clinical epidemiology and at the Faculty of Medicine and Surgery at the University of Santo Tomas. She is also the former president of the Philippine Society of Anesthesiologists. And Manila Medical Society. Recently, she was inducted as the 93rd president and became the 7th woman president of the Philippine Medical Association. I know you are very much interested to learn in this session, so I'll be turning it over to our presenter. Let us warmly welcome our resource speaker, Maria Minerva P. Calimag, M.D., M.Sc, Ph.D., to discuss and share about pharmacovigilance. I'll now be transferring the session to Dr. Calimag.
So for today, we'll be talking about pharmacovigilance system and the role of ABR reporting on patient safety. So we're coming from the UST Educational EdTech Center. Today is December 3, 2014, and welcome to the session. So what is pharmacovigilance? It's actually the science and activities related to the detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse effects and any other drug-related problems. For one who will undergo or go into pharmacovigilance, you have to have good mentoring to be able to do proper risk-benefit assessments as well as good safety reporting. Also, with pharmacovigilance, there will be monitoring regarding the use of medicines in everyday practice, and the goal is actually to be able to detect unrecognized adverse effects or if there are any changes in the patterns of these adverse effects. We assess the risks and benefits of medicines in order to determine what action from a systems viewpoint may be done in order to improve the safe use of medicines. With this slide, you will notice that we have here some of the aims of pharmacovigilance. In everyday use of medicines, the goal should always be to promote rational and safe use of drugs. we want to be able to balance the benefits as well as the risk of medicines. You have to understand that all drugs are actually poisons if they are used for the wrong reason, to the wrong patient, and given by the wrong route of administration. And therefore, there is a need to promote education and clinical training and promote effective communication to the public, because at the end of the day, it will be our patient safety that will be at stake. We have to improve patient care, therefore, and safety, and in the end, improve public health. Now, a pharmacovigilance system is necessary. It is defined as a system used by an organization to fulfill its legal tasks and responsibilities in relation to pharmacovigilance. There are many pharmacovigilance systems all over the world, and of course, they are designed to monitor the safety of authorized medicinal products. Before a product is actually launched into the market, you ought to be able to show benefit, that the benefit actually outweighs the risk. And usually, when launched, we have phases of drug trials, or we call them clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and in phase 4, when the drug is actually launched into the market, then you're able to do all the monitoring. So, of course, as a system, it consists of structures, processes, and outcomes. So, input, throughput, output. The elements are usually that of data collection and management. So, we gather data coming through various systems from patients who report, and also from physicians to whom patients report adverse events that they experience. Of course, there will be signal detection and data analysis, because in certain instances there is notable increase in patterns of adverse events. And then, of course, we want risk management, because once you're not able to manage the risk related to the drug, then more patients can actually die or maybe suffer morbidities and end up in hospitals. And of course, there is a need for coordination and networking. And we have to be very happy now, but that we are actually connected globally, and therefore, if we have signals noted here, for example, in the Philippines, we can actually just push information into the bigger data banks, databases for adverse drug events, like the Uppsala monitoring system, for example. Now, there are some pharmacovigilance challenges, particularly here in Asian countries. And of course, monitoring adverse events can also be a challenge. And here we ask the question why or how pharmaceutical companies, for example, can work with local physicians to identify and report. So another challenge is, of course, consumer awareness. We have to provide information not only to healthcare professionals but to patients as well, in order to optimize the safe and effective use of medicines. And we monitor the impact of any action taken. And as shown in this slide, we have to push for consumer awareness. Now, we have the so-called RIS declaration drawn up at the International Conference on Developing Effective Communications in Pharmacovigilance. This was in September 24 to 27 in RIS, Sicily in 1997. And the actual declaration was actually signed on September 27. The conference was actually attended by health professionals, so all the stakeholders, researchers, academics, media writers, drug regulators, lawyers, consumers, and of course, patient advocacy groups. Now, the preamble of the declaration states that monitoring, evaluating, and communicating drug safety is a public health activity with profound implications. And This depends on the integrity, of course, and collective responsibilities of all parties, all the stakeholders working together. There ought to be high scientific, ethical, and professional standards, and of course a moral code should govern this activity. And the inherent uncertainty, of course, of risks and benefits of drugs need to be acknowledged and explained. I think I have pointed it out much earlier. And therefore, decisions and actions that are based on this uncertainty should be informed by scientific and clinical considerations and should take into account, of course, social realities and circumstances. And here, it is important that we contextualize the issues based on the where the adverse events took place. Now, here are some declarations. These are the 5 bullet points in the declaration. And it says, drug safety information, of course, must serve the health of the public. So here we look at the public safety. And then, of course, the second bullet point is one of education in the appropriate use of drugs, including interpretation of safety information, which is essential also to patients at large as well as the healthcare providers. Third bullet point is that all evidence need to be assessed and understood, the risks understood and be made openly available. Fourth is that every country needs a system with independent expertise to ensure that safety information and all available drugs is adequately collected, impartially evaluated, and made accessible to all. Now, the fifth bullet point is, of course, a strong basis for drug safety monitoring, especially in response to perhaps drug disasters. Okay. So here, what are we actually looking into? We are actually looking into a culture of safety where everyone is aware, local physicians, patients, regarding the need to identify and report adverse drug reactions and counterfeit medicines. And this is a new thing. Why? Because most recently in the adverse drug reaction, there is a letter F that has been added, and F, which stands for failure of therapy. And usually this is due to counterfeit drugs. So here is a triangle where you have culture of safety across patients, from healthcare professionals to patient. And we talk about the phenomenon of patient safety and the phenomenon of medication safety as related to patient safety. Now, what is grassroots advocacy? Grassroots advocacy means the ordinary people in a community or ordinary members of an organization as opposed to leadership. It means normal, everyday citizens like us who engage in educating not only our peers, but our patients, as well as our legislators. And that is what we did actually. I will show you some initiatives that we've been doing here in the Philippines with regards to grassroots advocacy. It is actually a ground-up process that does not require us to be elected officials or professional lobbyists. We have just to spend some time to exercise our right to convey our views so that we can reap huge rewards for our patients and our profession. As healthcare professionals, we're not talking just about physicians, but also of nurses, for example, and pharmacists. All of these healthcare professionals actually hold drugs or make use of drugs in our daily practice. And therefore, all of us should be involved in this advocacy. We have both the ability and the obligation to educate others, including lawmakers, on advocacy issues specific to our profession. And in this instance, it is about pharmacovigilance. So, again, these issues include patient safety, medication safety, responsibilities of our allied health team members, and, of course, ways to improve access to care and many more. Now, as healthcare professionals involved in medicine and particularly pharmacology and pharmaceutical medicine, we have to advocate. Other groups will happily serve as our voice if we don't do that, and therefore we might be at the expense of putting forward their own potential conflicts of interest. So we should ourselves be involved in the advocacy, otherwise we might end up in the minor. Instead of having a seat at the table, we will end up in the minor. So here are some challenges: lack of good manufacturing practices among some manufacturers. Some other problems include substandard medicines, counterfeit medicines, smuggling across our ports. Remember, our ports are very porous. We have ports, Visayas, Mindanao. We have coastal areas where actually counterfeit medicines can come in. There can be some mislabeling or false claims, irrational use, nutraceuticals, traditional healing practices. These are all threats actually to our public health and safety. Now, there are several relationships that we have to understand, and the relationships are fiduciary in nature, meaning they're based on trust. And here we have a cogwheel where you have a patient, professional, and industry actually in an interactive, interconnected, and enacted relationship that is actually based on trust. So our strategies would of course include professionalism. We hope that as healthcare professionals we will place our patients and our profession's point of view always at the forefront. And then of course we have partnerships. And then of course partnerships meaning among healthcare professionals. And then of course paradigm shifts. Healthcare is a decade or more actually behind many other high-risk industries. The airline industries, of course, first, and the automotive industries have actually focused their attention to ensuring basic safety. Here is the Toyota business model where they integrate safety into the way they work, always looking for signals. They take in back all of their units when they feel that there are actually things to be remedied. They understand human factors very well. Vigilance, especially in spotting latent errors, meaning latent errors in the sense that they could have passed off as a non-event, but if they are left unattended, they can actually become actual errors. The Toyota business model is one where they have a system that ensures easy detection of deliberate bending of rules. And of course, hospitals should be concerned with 100% safety. Okay? And we, especially for working in hospitals, should be the ones doing good. Moving from searching for evidence of harm, we collect ADR reports. We actively demonstrate safety and manage risk proactively. So how do we take actions after we've seen there's evidence of harm? Actually, if we Google, like when I Googled last November 27, a total of 1,943,480 primary articles and at least 51,188 systematic reviews on drug therapy are indexed in the PubMed Clinical Queries database. And even as we sit down in this session, we know that there are at least 11 more articles coming out. So how do we keep up with the information on drug therapy? The only way is actually to gather the information as they are at source. So here we look at the critical balance between risk management, of course, and crisis management. We don't want the balance to be tilted towards crisis management because it's very hard to undo patient death. We want to manage the risk before the crisis occurs. So I also mentioned earlier that no medicine is entirely or absolutely safe for all people in all places at all times. It's one of the medicine morbidity and mortality is one of the major health problems, and we should be able to live with some measure of uncertainty about these risks of harm from medicines. Is risk good? Well, yes, because it keeps us on our toes. We are, without risks, there will be no rewards. No? So we take advantage of the upside and minimize the downside. So the purpose actually of risk management is not to eliminate risk, but to understand the risk. So here, risk management has 3 stages, which are interrelated and reiterative, meaning after you finish one, then you go back to number 1 after you finish number 3. So first is characterization of the safety profile of the medicinal product, including what is known and hopefully be able to detect what is not known. And then planning of pharmacovigilance activities to characterize risks and identify new risks and increase knowledge in general about the safety profile of the drugs that we prescribe. We plan and implement risk minimization and mitigation and assessment of the effectiveness of these activities. So, key pharmacovigilance issues include adverse drug events. These are harm caused by the drug and harm from the use of drugs, including dose reductions and discontinuations of drug therapy. Adverse drug reactions are harm directly caused by the drug at normal doses during normal use. And medication errors, of course, usually due to human errors occurring during prescribing for physicians, transcribing for nurses, dispensing for pharmacists, and of course administering and adherence or monitoring of a drug, again in the ward by nurses, for example. Although administering drugs can also be done by physicians. Now, if these errors are stopped or halted, then you have what we call near misses or a potential for an adverse drug event. Now also there are harm from poor quality medicines like the counterfeit, substandard, adulterated medicines. We call them SSFFCs, no? Okay. So meaningful pharmacovigilance can be done at any level of healthcare system. And the first step, especially in the hospital setting, is the Hospital Drug and Therapeutics Committee. Drug safety information should always benefit country first, and therefore we ought to be able to push for action. In fact, in some instances, like what we've done, we have actually lobbied for the creation of a law against counterfeit drugs. And then, of course, as was mentioned earlier during the introduction, we have Proclamation number 2083, which actually made the 3rd week of November of every year as National Consciousness Week for counterfeit drugs. So what are the associated costs? We have harm, physical harm, direct harm caused by the fake drugs. There will be, of course, in terms of loss of trust of our patients. This is less tangible, but slowly you see that your patients move on to another doctor, which probably they will say more young because they're not getting cured, no, when you give them the medicines. So, of course, you also have loss of trust, not only in the physician, but in the system itself. And then we have damage arising from deception, like patients fail to comply and patients feel threatened and do not feel safe. So both tangible as well as intangible cost. So what is the FDA doing? It actually promote public health by promptly and efficiently reviewing clinical research and taking appropriate and timely action in marketing of regulated products. And if there are actual reports, if you will go to fda.gov.ph, you will see that there are actually two tabs there. One is e-report, intended for delay, and there is another tab which says ADR, intended for physicians and healthcare professionals. And the goal, of course, is to protect public health by ensuring that drugs used for humans, including biologics, end up safe and effective, and that there is reasonable assurance of safety and effectiveness also of medical devices intended for human use. Because there are certain drugs, for example, like anesthetics, which need a vaporizer, which is a medical device, or perhaps if we want to do continuous IV infusion, then we have to use, for example, certain pumps. And therefore, they have to be accurate because if, for example, you intend to only give 1 milligram per 0.1 milligrams per minute, it has to be that accurate. The pump has to be able to produce, or rather introduce, only that much amount of drug per unit. Now also, FDA maintains a system of complex post-marketing surveillance and risk assessment programs to identify adverse drug events. And the important thing here is actually the patterns of adverse drug events. So for example, we have at present a certain coffee, a nutraceutical, and there are some signals. Actually, the FDA has already issued a warning since January of 2015, but the coffee is still out there in the market. And in some areas, it has caused patterns of renal failure, leading to patients undergoing dialysis. Also, the FDA monitors suspected adverse events associated with the use of an approved medical product and uses this information to actually initiate labeling updates and on rare occasions to evaluate the marketing decision. So they can issue pull-outs, advisories. So again, an adverse drug reaction is any unintended, undesirable, or unexpected effect of a prescribed medication that will require discontinuance of the medication, lowering the dose, recognizing treatment, requires treatment with a prescription medication, requires initial or prolongation of hospitalization. An adverse drug event can actually result in a disability or maybe life-threatening, and results in death or results in a congenital anomaly, because one of the adverse drug events actually from chronic use. And so if you have that adverse event and a mother actually took the drug, as in the case of thalidomide, for example, then you can have congenital anomalies. The cost of ADRs in hospitals, we have 4.2 to 6.7 events per 100 regular hospital admissions. 3.2% of all admissions are caused by adverse drug event. In the United States, it has cost something like $6,685 million per event. And then, of course, increase in hospital stay, length of hospital stay by at least 1.9 to 2.2 days. Again, here are some data regarding cost, how it has also caused patient to develop non-compliance because of loss of trust. And then, of course, almost 71% of serious medication errors occur at the prescribing end medication use process. Here is ADRs by class. Okay. Mostly CNS. Well, overdose, of course, is one of the major considerations when it comes to CNS drugs. And of course, the end result would be loss of consciousness and, of course, respiratory depression. Another big chunk of the ADRs reported are those of the anti-infectives or the antibiotics. So here are some cutaneous manifestations. You have bullous dermatitis, bullous erythema multiforme, and then you have the fixed drug reactions, and then of course some photosensitivity reactions. Here is a gingival enlargement due to calcium channel blockers. Here is comedonecrosis of the leg. Okay. So how do we build a safe healthcare system? Professor James Reason of the University of Manchester mentioned about principles, policies, and then procedures and practices that ought to be addressed, to build a safe healthcare system. We have to nag, keep on reminding people to be more careful. If we miss, then it will be failure of the system. We address change culture, and of course we understand that whenever we have change, there is movement from one point to another, and it always causes pain, especially when people are so used to doing one thing, nothing has happened. There's always one accident waiting, big time to happen, and therefore we ought to be able to examine the system point by point. We need to have incident reports so we will see where breakdown in the systems actually take place. We ought to determine from beginning to end. We usually do root cause analysis to determine where the mistakes and errors come, and if there is a pattern, especially then that is most helpful in fixing the system. We have a non-punitive, non-blaming culture, and this is one that actually, because when you do root cause analysis, you for example, look at the 5 whys. Why did it happen? Why? Until you find the root cause. Then you're able to focus less on the individual that has caused the errors, for example, and instead go down right to the things that enable the errors to happen. Like especially now, there are many distractors, sound. We ought to be very vigilant, whenever we inject drugs. We have to double check, triple check. Whenever we prepare drugs, prior to them giving it to the patient, we have to be very careful that there are no unnecessary sounds, unnecessary distractors that can keep us from doing our job well, especially in terms of medication administration. So where are the usual communication breakdowns? So here, that's where I'm leading to. We talk about interprofessional and collaborative practice, intersectoral communication. So we look at the entire supply chain as well as the down to the patient when we look at systems. So what happened to the patient? What if nothing happens in spite of medication? We gave a sedative, for example, that's supposed to induce sleep on our patient, and the patient's still conversing with you. So that means the drug is not working. So what is the cause of the event? What should I report? Why? Why did the event happen? Why was it not reported earlier? That's another consideration, because when there is a lag in the reporting, then another similar event can happen if there is something wrong with the system. And then who is responsible and who should I report it to? When? When should I report? When should I get a feedback? This is, I think, where the system usually faces a sort of a stumbling block. Sometimes patients and physicians report, but they don't get the feedback. Why? Because oftentimes you really have to you ought to be able to show a pattern, as well as we should be able to establish cause and effect, really. And then where should I report, and how do I determine the cause? Yeah, causation. No? How often should I report and report? Now, when we talk of open communication, we build a network, track and trace counterfeits, for example, between pharmaceutical, regulatory, and enforcement bodies. So we talk about public-private sector partnership. So here is the launch of the coalition against fake medicines. We realize that whenever we talk of fake medicines, we might actually be promoting the rise of fake medicines, and we have since shifted to the promotion of safe medicines, and so the opposite. So we participate in various health-related conventions, Drugstore Association of Philippines, Philippine Pharmacists Association, Generic Summit, PMA Regional Assemblies, and then we have Counterfeit Medicine Summit, in NCR, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We have Medication Safety Summit. We have the first one together with the Philippine Alliance for Patient Safety in June 2010. We have emergency awareness campaigns among the barangay health workers, then lay fora, training modules on counterfeit medicines, training modules on adverse drug reactions, school caravans in universities and colleges. We have radio interviews, TV appearances, press conference, press releases. A multi-sectoral conversation leading to the Manila Declaration on Medication Safety in the Operating Room was held last September 17, 2013, and last November 17, 2013, a conference to commemorate the third week of November again as National Consciousness Week against counterfeit medicines. Key messages: promote greater public awareness on the issue, spread information regarding fake drugs, possible adverse effects of mainline drugs, be a proactive organization really committed in helping address the problems brought by the proliferation of counterfeit medicines, and then plan and administer informational strategies. So we can make this as an advocacy. We are recognized. We hope that we'll be recognized by government, media, and general public of the issue of fake drugs in the market as one problem that needs to be addressed. Okay. Greater participation and support. Greater focus of lawmakers towards concern of key players in the healthcare industry. Greater media focus on counterfeit medicines, which is one of the more pressing concerns of today. At least 10% of our drugs in the market are actually counterfeits. There are some press conferences, health summits, and lay fora, education campaigns. Here are the barangay health workers in Pampanga. Quad media campaigns, warning issued on Chinese medicine, quad media campaign, and then increasing public awareness to 1-minute Filipino radio spills, as well as about 50,000 car stickers with the coalition hotline distributed to members, media interviews, TV documentary. This is a probe team shown last October 16, 2006. Posters and tarpaulins, tent cards, drugstores, DOH regional hospitals, DTI Consumer Welfare Desk, commercial video clips, and of course the website of the Coalition Against Fake Medicines, raids and seizures, okay, publicity, government endorsement. Here is Senator Pia Cayetano. She was also one of those in our fund run. We have policy advocacy, and then pharmacovigilance lectures with PMA, Philippine Pharmacists Association, Philippine Hospital Association, Private Hospital Association, and curricular integration of medication safety in colleges and universities, which was tackled primarily during the Davao Convention at the PSEC, and that is the Philippine Society for Experimental and Clinical Pharmacology. How do we integrate the whole medication safety initiatives in the curriculum? And then in cooperation with our industry partners, Philippine College of Pharmaceutical Medicine, we developed modules on pharmacovigilance. Together with the academe. Some classroom activities that we actually do, for example, in our pharmacology classes are the advocacy videos on medication safety. And then, of course, we ask them to make brochures and posters, infographics related to medication safety. So the goal is actually to make each of us advocates for medication safety. Okay, Philippine National Patient Safety Day, establishing a forum for intersectoral communication on medication safety and strengthening the culture of safety in the healthcare profession. This was last November 25, 2010. At that time, I was president of the Philippine Society of Anesthesiologists, and we actually took the lectures to 17 regions in the country, which is part of the regional assemblies of the Philippine Medical Association. And then again, in September 16, 2013, at the Augusto Barcelon Hall of the Medical City, we did sign the Manila Declaration on Medication Safety in the operating room. So this is the Manila Declaration on Medication Safety, and we have all the stakeholders actually forging ties. So this is the OWL at PMA. The OWL is actually an online web learning. PMA has a double meaning that stands for the Philippine Medical Association in a partnership for medical advancement. And here, we hope that the OWL will be a portal for communicating a culture of safety in the delivery of medicines in a country. So we have to engage effectively in academic, legislative, regulatory, and political process on behalf of our specialty in the medical profession. Take a look at these words: reactive and creative. And what do you see? The letter C, you actually put it in front of R, and the word suddenly becomes creative. So let us be responsible, relevant, and responsive to this issue. Let us be creative instead of reactive. Thank you very much.
We thank our speaker for a great discussion about our topic. We are very honored to have an esteemed speaker for today. We learned valuable lessons in topics on the aims, limits, and challenges issues with pharmacovigilance. We learned about advocacy, culture of safety, and strategies we can adopt to support drug and medication safety. In building a safe healthcare system, there is a need to find a critical balance between risk management and crisis management. Create awareness and actively respond to issues faced by the healthcare system through partnerships. So the vital questions to consider were also mentioned when supporting adverse drug reactions. So at the center of it all, we need to put patient safety as our priority. So let us not be reactive, instead let us be creative. Let us be responsible, relevant. Again, the three focus areas for advocacy against counterfeit medicines are namely vigilance, consumer empowerment, and interagency collaboration. So we'll now move forward the question and answer portions. I'll be transferring it to Andre.
So good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Calimag, we have a question for you. So, we have a question here from Mr. We have a question here from Mr. Velasco, Ray Velasco. So the question is, in the advent of the growing number of Filipinos who self-medicate, what ways can pharmaceutical companies involve the patient to be more active in reporting adverse drug events?
Educate.
Dr. Kalim, can you please repeat your answer?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, with regards to this issue, I think there are two issues there, no? One is, first, we have to educate our patients. As physicians, we ought to educate our patients that they should not self-medicate. Sometimes, some diseases, for example, or illnesses may present similarly, but actually caused by different microorganisms, perhaps, like viral diseases and bacterial diseases can present as fever, but the viral diseases cannot be addressed by antimicrobials, for example. So the one key issue there is to make sure that our patients understand that they should not self-medicate. Secondly, that we should be able to make them understand that not all drugs actually are safe if it is not used for what it is intended to be used for. Like if every viral disease, for example, use an antibiotic and it's not, of course, necessary, then you develop resistance to the drug. And when you need it most, then it does not have an effect anymore. So these are two issues. Do not self-medicate, and then, of course, understand that all drugs may actually have or result in adverse events. And we have to be very careful about that. The only thing, I think the media can actually play a very important role. Truth in advertising in terms of our media partners is important, because sometimes, you have all of these nutraceuticals actually being promoted online as well as on TV and radio, and people just sort of buy them without necessarily knowing what the effect of these nutraceuticals might be on the body. You have to understand that we place no approved therapeutic claim for a reason. Simply said, when you put there no approved therapeutic claim, it means take at your own risk. No? So, as I've said, media should be part of the partners in this pharmacovigilance campaigns. Did I answer your question? I think it was another lecture altogether. Hello? Hello?
Hello, doctor. So thank you for your answer for that question. So we have another question. It's from a pharmacist's point of view. So our question is, Filipinos see pharmacists as drug sellers. Because of this, a trust issue on the pharmacist's knowledge about adverse reaction. So often patients keep telling pharmacists to stop pretending to be a doctor. Thus, so how can pharmacists contribute in the advocacy if some patients doesn't trust them with it?
Do not trust pharmacists? You mean? What did you? Sorry, I didn't catch some parts of the question.
I think
Hello?
hello. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes.
So I think the question okay, so the question is, how can pharmacists contribute in the advocacy if some patient doesn't trust them with it?
You have to understand that drugs is actually the purview of the pharmacists. No? They are at the forefront, especially in the drug stores, and they play a big role actually in this advocacy, especially if when patients come and just simply ask for medicines without a prescription. So, of course, the pharmacist can help by actually reminding the patient to go to the doctor for the medicines. And if they are asked questions regarding adverse drug events, they are very knowledgeable about this because that's what they studied pharmacy for. So they are partners in this endeavor, and of course we welcome every help that they can give, especially in terms of reporting. If you're a patient and you developed an adverse drug event, you can go back to your doctor, tell your pharmacist, so that they'll be able to report on your behalf. Okay?
Okay, thank you, doctor. So, I hope that answered the question earlier. We have one final question. There is a question regarding reporting adverse drug reactions. Ms. Tandayu asked if the basis for reporting the adverse drug reaction is not serious based on the product monograph, but it is classified as serious in the criteria, which basis would be followed, the product monograph or the standards for adverse drug reaction reporting?
It should be the standards for adverse drug report, because in some instances you might have a mild reaction taking place in one patient actually leading to death or a serious adverse event in another. Why? Because there are in the criteria you also include suitability. So for example, a drug might be have some just minor effects, for example, for a patient who is normal without or healthy rather, and then you give the same drug, for example, to a patient who has renal disease or liver disease, for example, and suddenly you have a catastrophic event that leads to death. So the report should be based on the actual outcome of the patient. So if it results in death, prolongation of hospitalization, then that should be followed, not the drug monograph.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Calimag. So, unfortunately, we are short on time. So, the other questions, we are still entertaining your other questions, and for the attendees, I think we will just forward it to Dr. Calimag. So, you will be those questions will be answered. The organizers will post another poll question regarding this webinar. So it will pop up in your window. And after which, we would like to ask each of you to remain with us for a few short moments to complete a short evaluation and post-test.
We hope you can apply this learning session to your current practice to promote a culture of safety. Thank you. There will be an evaluation form which will appear once the webinar closes, so kindly provide your feedback to improve future sessions. On behalf of Dr. Minerva Calimag, as well as the graduate students from the Bioinformatics Unit and Medical Informatics Unit, we thank you very much for joining us and taking the time to become a participant in this webinar. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yung record, pakicheck. Nakikipin natin sa pata.